In this skills demonstration, we're going to look at more advanced conditional processing. Specifically, I want to look at logical operators, which will allow us to ask compound questions of our data. We'll also look at if-then-else blocks as a way of processing questions with alternatives. This will be done in the context of a simple app that converts numeric scores to letter grades. Okay, so let's get started by sketching this out on paper just so we understand what the app is that we're trying to create. So I'm working in the context of a grade book, and the idea is I wanted to be able to work with input, provide a numeric score, and I want to get output of a letter grade. So put in my numeric score input box, right? And this is number only. And I want to get letter grade is my button. And my output is the letter grade. And of course, I don't want students to enter their own letter grade, so this is not enabled. Right? Now, let's understand the processing that's going to go into this. Let's see. If I'm 90 or above, I get an A. Right? If I'm, let's see, cutoff for B would be 80, greater than 80. And it goes up to, what, 89? Well, what if it's an 89.5? What if it's an 89.9? What if it's actually, so what I want to do is I want to say it's greater than or equal to 80, because if they get an 80%, they get a B, but less than, less than 90 is a B, right? And greater than or equal to 70 and less than 80 is a C, right? And so on. Greater than or equal to 60 up to less than 70 is a D, and less than 60 is an F. Right? That's the grading scale I want to use. If you want to use your own scale, that's fine. But that's what I stick to. Okay. You can go ahead and set up the interface. I think it's pretty straightforward now. And let's go ahead and get this started with us. Okay. So in App Inventor, you can see in my designer mode, I've created our interface just as we laid it out on paper a few minutes ago. A couple things for you to take note of. I've named the components that I'm going to be manipulating. Specifically, this text box, txt num score, btn get letter for the button, and this text box is called txt letter score. You can use different names if you want to. I just wanted to point that out so that when I'm reviewing my code, those are the names that I'm going to be using. Okay, so the point of this skills demonstration is to teach you about logical operators and the if-then-else block. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement the code for this app two different ways. Okay, so let's think about what it is we need to accomplish. To start with, we know that if the numeric score is greater than 90, they get an A. So in the spirit of incremental development, why don't we go ahead and create that first? Because we already know how to do that. So I'm going to go into my block editor and create that. So, like I said, we should already know how to do this. When the button is pressed, I want to do a comparison. I want to do a relational operator. And what is it I'm comparing? What my numeric score is, the value that was entered by the user into the num score text box, And I want to understand, is that greater than the literal value of 90? Okay? If that's the case, if that's the case, what do I want to do? I want to set my text box for the letter to the value of A. Oops. A. Good. So let's go ahead and put that into my button. Okay, so let's see how this works on our actual device. So when I go in here and enter a numeric value in for my score, 58, get letter grade, nothing happens, right? It wasn't greater than 90, so it didn't reset that text box. Okay, and if I go in here and enter a value in 95, get letter grade A. Great, it works. Okay, so now I've got the condition handled for if the student scored in the A range. Now I want to add another condition that asks, are they in the B range? So let's see if I can take care of that. What I want is another if statement, right? And what I want to do is set their score for a B. But I need to know the right question to ask in order to see if they're in the B range. Okay, now recall, what was a B? B was when they were more than 80, but less than 90. So let's see, what I need is, I need to ask, was their score, duplicate, was their score greater than 80, right? Oh, not quite. If they score 80, that means that won't count. So I want greater than or equal to. Was their score greater than 80? And at the same time, I'm going to duplicate that whole thing. At the same time, I also want to know, was their score less than 90, right? What I want is I want to ask both of those questions simultaneously. It has to be the case that it's greater than 80 and it's less than 90. And that's where we get the notion of a logical operator, which is over here in the logic drawer. And down here we can see I can ask and, right? Condition 1 and condition 2. It's a way I can combine multiple yes-no answers. Multiple, in computer science we call it a Boolean value, right? So now let's read this block off. If the score is greater than or equal to 80 and less than 90, then the letter score is a B. And we'll stick that right in there under our A condition. And let's see if that works. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to enter in a score in the B range, 82. Ah, good, I got a B. Let's see, I'll replace that with an A, 95. A still works. Let's see, 80. 80 is a B. How about 89.9999? Oh, it's still a B. Tough grader. 90. Oops. 90 is not working. Why is 90 not working? Let's find out. So why is 90 not working? Let's see. Ah, look at that. See, if it equals 90 exactly, is this condition met? No. So what does it do? It skips over it. And then it comes in here and it says is greater than 80, greater than or equal to 80? It is, yes, but 90 is not less than 90, so this is false. So true and false is false, so this doesn't evaluate either, so it doesn't change the grade. What I really wanted to do to fix this problem was make this greater than or equal to 90. Okay? Now, I'm confident that should fix that problem. We'll check it again in a second. But while we're at it, let's go ahead and add in our other conditions. And I'm just going to duplicate these. Let's see. So if it's greater than or equal to 70 and less than 80, then we're in the C range. If we're let's see, greater than or equal to 60 and less than 70, then we're in the D range. And there's one more condition for F if it's strictly less than 60, right? I'm just going to duplicate this one. If it's less than 60, then we get an F. Okay? Take a look and look through that, make sure that makes sense to everyone here. If it's greater than or equal to 90, we're in the A range. If it's greater than or equal to 80 and less than 90, we're in the B range. If it's greater than or equal to 70 and less than 80, we're in the C range. Greater than or equal to 60, less than 70, it's a D. Less than 60, it's an F. So I think we've got the whole spectrum covered here, right? Let's go ahead and verify that this works. Okay, so let's see what we've got. So I've got 90. We get the letter grade now. Yeah, 90 is now an A. Good. Let's see. 58, F. 60 is a D. Good. 68. Oops. 68, also a D. 70, 73 should be a C. Good. 85. Good. I think we're all set there, right? Okay, of course, if you wanted to change this around to add pluses and minuses, we could add those conditions in as well. So if you wanted to give a B minus for what? If it was between 80 and 83, you could do that pretty easily. It's just a matter of adding some additional conditions, asking some more questions of our data. Okay, so what we just saw was the use of a logical operator and to join multiple questions, multiple yes-no values. And notice that there's another logical operator, or. And you know the difference between these two. And requires both conditions to be true, or requires one or the other or both to be true in order for the outcome to be true. Okay. And you can see that the approach that we took to solving this problem was to ask different questions. We asked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 distinct questions to solve this problem. Okay? We can do this a different way. Let me show you this alternate route. One thing we notice in this approach is I'm always asking 5 questions. So if I type the value in 95, I know I'm getting an A. But I'm still going to go through the process of asking these other questions. Did you get a B? Did you get a C? Did you get a D? Did you get an F? And you know, the way we would think of this, we would stop after the A. Once we have a solution, once we know what the letter grade is, we don't have to go any further. But this program doesn't know that, does it? It's always asking all 5 questions because the way the processing works is it works through these blocks in sequence. So the other way we can do this is to use a different control structure. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to start with the same way, and I'm going to say, I'm going to use this blue block to modify it. And we notice that I've got different ways I can change this. Else is a condition that is executed when the question evaluates to false. So if I do this, I've now got a block that says, if the question evaluates to true, do this. Otherwise, do this, and then move to the next step. The other thing I can do in here is I can have an else-if clause, which is saying, ask a question, and if it evaluates to true, do this. Otherwise, ask another question, and if it's true, do this. And you can see that's kind of the structure we want to use in this case. And notice I can build up several of these all in one big block. If it's an A, if it's greater than equal to 90, give them an A. Otherwise, are they in the B range? Give them a B. Otherwise, are they in the C range? Give them a C. D, E, or D, oops, D, goodness gracious. D, I'm going to pull that one out. If A, else if B, else if C, else if D, otherwise F. I don't really need to ask that last question. Right? So let's see. There's my block. Let's see if I can fill this in. I'm going to grab these off here. So if they're in the A range, then set the grade to A. Else, otherwise, are they in the B range? Give them a B. Otherwise, oops, didn't get all of it there. Otherwise, are they in the C range? Give them a C. Otherwise, are they in the D range? Give them a D. Otherwise, give them an F. Okay, let me pull off to the side here so we can look at this in more detail here. Okay, so if they're in the A range, give them an A. Notice I didn't ask that last question. I didn't ask if they were less than 60 because I already knew, right? Are they greater than 90? Are they greater than 80 and less than 90? Are they greater than 70 and less than 80? Are they greater than 60 or less than 60, right? At this point, if I reach this part of the block, I know that the score has to be less than 60 because it wasn't greater than 60 and less than 70. It wasn't greater than 70 and less than 80. It wasn't greater than 80 and less than 90. It wasn't greater than or equal to 90, right? So there's no other value it could be other than less than 60. Let's confirm that this works, and then we'll look at it a little bit more closely. Okay, let's see. So 85 is a B. Start at 90. Gets me an A still. And 75 gives me a C. Seems to be working nicely, doesn't it? 68. Okay, let's confirm that the F works, right? Because that's the one thing that was kind of different. 56. Yeah, it gives me the F. Let's test right at the boundary. 60 gives me a D. 59. Yeah, so that seems to work nicely. Okay, let's go back and take a look at the code again. Okay, so we got a little bit more efficient here because if my score is 95, it's greater than 90, I say it's an A, and then I'm done, right? Because I only execute the else clause if this evaluates to false. So I don't need to ask any more of these questions once I find the right answer, right? So let's see, suppose I get a 85, what happens? Let's trace through this. Is it greater than or equal to 90? No. Let's execute the else. Is it greater than 80? Yes. And is it less than 90? Yes. That's true, so they get a B. And then I'm done. So I will stop asking questions. Okay. Now, if you're clever, you might see that I'm still asking a little bit too much, aren't I? Notice that when we got down to this D range here, I said, well, I know that if this is false, I have to be less than 60, right? And so I didn't ask that question explicitly, am I less than 60? Well, the same is true actually in this block. If I'm getting to this block here, I know that I'm not greater than 70, greater than or equal to 70, so I must be less than 70. So in fact, I could just ask this question, right? If I'm greater than or equal to 70 and less than 80, 68, no. If I answer no to this question here, I must be less than 70. So all I need to ask for the D range is, am I greater than 60? And likewise, here. Right? And here. So I can simplify this quite a bit. This is called a cascading if. Okay, just push those down here. So what am I doing now? How does it look now? If it's greater than 90, they get an A. If it's not greater than 90, I'm going to go back down here and I'm going to ask this question. Is it greater than 80? Right? I'm never going to ask this question unless I'm less than 90. Would the same thing work over here? No, because here these questions are independently being asked, right? The difference is this else. This question, this else if, only gets asked when this question is false. Here, this question gets asked every single time, regardless of the outcome of this question. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Go ahead and try that out in the code and see if you can confirm to yourself that this works nicely. Okay. So what we've done here is we've explored two different concepts. We've got this idea of an if then else. Remember, the else is the condition that executes if the question evaluates to no or false. And we've explored the idea of logical operators, ways that we can join yes/no questions together. Right? And we have two logical operators, and or. Another thing I can do with logical operators is I can use a not. So if I want to say it's not the case, if I want to invert that answer, I can use this not block to help me out there as well. Alrighty. I think that wraps up for our skills demonstration.